Welcome, welcome. So grateful to be with you in this time. My name is Oriana Ides, and I'm really honored to be sharing a practice with you today called Descansos. Today is our first art-based, ritual-based practice in this 6-month series of offerings called Caring for Ourselves and Others. It's part of a body of work that really honors and supports self-attuning for care providers. I invite folks to take a deep breath, grab water, maybe art supplies, pen and paper, whatever you might need to feel settled and present. I'll be sharing a quote at the beginning of each session. It's quote. There'll be many quotes throughout the offering, but this one is something I like to call a mind stretch, which is a soft landing, soft entry point into the content for the day. This series is deeply rooted in the work of Francis Wheeler. And his body of work called The Gates of Grief. He writes in relation to our grief that our grief, when cannot be spoken, falls into the shadow and rearises in us as a symptom. So many of us are depressed, anxious, and lonely. We struggle with addictions and find ourselves moving at a breathless pace, trying to keep up with the machinery of culture. So that actually is not the softest entry point into today's offering, but I think it is a beautiful way to quickly, bravely, boldly name the things that we're up against and the many challenges that work against or convince us that slowing down and engaging in practice and process to metabolize our grief and strong emotions is not something that is accessible to us or worthy of our time and energy. So as you read the quote, it's on the screen, as you hear me read it, as we settle into this space, I invite you to consider where in your body or your life might unspoken grief be asking for your attention, for your care. And hold on to that. Begin to kind of unpack and honor, make space for it um, as we proceed in today's offering. I do want to share that today's offering is made possible through the California Reducing Disparities Project. I am a TA specialist with the LGBTQ TA Center, which we support 6 LGBTQ grantees through technical assistance. capacity building, and peer learning. Together, we're implementing and evaluating community-defined programs that support the mental health of LGBTQ plus Californians. This work is funded by the Office of Health Equity, and our aim is to really uplift, honor, share, explore culturally rooted practices that exist within our community to help ensure that our work stays grounded in equity, responsiveness, and sustainability. The aim of this series, this is the second in the series, but the first practice-based offering in the series, and there'll be 6 monthly, is to build a personal collective practice that honors and integrates ritual and connection that really supports our ability to navigate and metabolize grief for ourselves. And that in turn strengthens absolutely our ability to do so for others. Many of us are operating within organizational cultures that are the default, right? That we've inherited. This offering here is an exploration into a solution finding that helps us think about and feel into ways we may integrate ritual in our existing structures and practices, and dream, vision, feel into how we can create an infrastructure that supports the metabolization of our grief and traumatic experiences so that we can dream and be beyond. So that's our hope for this series, our time together. I'll just walk us through the agenda. Welcome and introductions. Welcome to the space, introducing what this space is. I will guide us through a slowing down practice. We will talk about the 5 gates of grief, some, and then engage in a practice-based experience, and then close out. So you are listening to a recording of a live session that happened in October of 2025. So I would like to invite us into some intentional settling, return to our bodies and our breath and the land. You signal to yourself that you're safe and that you're here as a compassionate witness, and that you will practice this next few moments and maybe for the next hour, a slowing down, a settling, a witnessing of your experience without judgment. Next few moments are an invitation back into our bodies, back towards the land, and a calling forth of our ancestors. I invite you to engage however feels accessible to you. And for the next few moments, find the resources within you to settle, to sense into the many layers of connection through which you belong in this world. You notice the quality of your breath without any effort or intention to change it. Just notice cadence. Notice your default breath. and the parts of your chest it occupies as you inhale and exhale. Again, just noticing, is it labored? Is it shallow or deep? Is it quick or slow? Inviting a body scan from the top of your head down through your neck and your chest, your stomach. Again, without any effort to change, just noticing the sensations that dwell within you, the temperature, the stagnation, the fluidity, the tension, the neutrality, the temperature, just noticing. And when you've made your way down to your feet, can you take a few more intentional breaths, extending curiosity to anything that came to your awareness through your breath? Through your settling, through your noticing. What might it need from you? What might it be trying to tell you? Making your way up through your thighs, your belly, your shoulders, your neck. And with the final few cycles of breath, can you now extend whatever you have capacity to towards the areas within you, the places in your body, the parts of yourself that made itself known to you through sensation, through temperature? Can you soften the tissue around your eyes? Can you unclench your jaw? Can you straighten, elongate your posture without laboring too much? You invite a fuller, deeper, slower breath. Maybe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Can you release any tension you're holding in your thighs or your sit bones? Can you deepen your connection to the earth through your feet? Really root your feet in, allow them to get heavy. You feel your connection to the earth, extending gratitude and reverence. And one more full, deep, long, slow breath. What are you noticing as you move some of your consciousness out of your body and back into your thoughts and your mind? Where did you go? How did that feel? What are you holding? What are you ripe with? Maybe it was color or sensation or part of your body your awareness kept going to. What information came through you and to you? in that practice? Where did you find some or experience some resistance, discomfort? Also, such good information. Spend some time with. Yeah, thank you for softening to that practice. Thank you for allowing yourself to um, experience some settling, some release, some intentionality, some compassionate witnessing without judging or labeling. It's not lost on me how difficult it is to be present and how little practice, through no fault of our own, we have in being present, fully present to ourselves. This space to mourn, to feel, to be with our strong emotions, to be with our loss and our sadness, um, is really something we have to fight for and create with intention. And there's so many messages, thoughts, and feelings that I think we need to contend with in order to create this space. So I just want to honor and name that. Today's offering in this series, Morning is the Work, um, was developed um, uh, as I was um, listening to a really beautiful talk by Lama Rod Owens. And he held a space for us in our grief after the initial attacks on Gaza and Palestine. People watched from their phones with no real outlet, not knowing what to do or how to support such immense suffering. And he created this space for us to feel into what it is that was coming up for us. He said that grief is the feeling of overwhelm, and only through acknowledging our helplessness are we able to get to our grief. It's humbling, right? It is a feeling or an array of feelings that really force us to acknowledge how little control we have, how deeply connected we are, right? And that grief is this experience of despair, anger, and sadness, of rage or of numbness. Lama Rod Owen says that grief is our experience as we witness innocent life lost, right? As we witness people doing their absolute best to navigate and exist within implorable conditions and immense oppression and injustice. That grief is a very natural and human response to brutality and injustice. And then he made this distinction. He said that mourning is actually our work. That mourning is an inquiry into how we might begin to develop a relationship with the things that we cannot change. He said that mourning is active, and it is through our creation we're able to access mourning, through art and through ritual and through connection. And that there are these things, right, that cause grief that we cannot physically change, but we can influence them spiritually and energetically through mourning, through practice, through this active nature of engaging, of metabolizing, of feeling, of noticing, of naming, of being in relationship with, right? As opposed to minimizing or downplaying or discounting. right? Which we're socialized to do because feelings around grief, rage, sadness, despair are inconvenient and they slow down our productivity. That's what we're taught, right? That mourning is a practice that keeps our heart open and soft, and it's an invitation back into our body. So, yeah, today I'm sharing with you an art-based practice that was created by my dear comrade and sister, my beloved Dr. Noor Jones Bay. And it was inspired through her deep love for the book Woman Who Runs with Wolves. Um, and Clarissa Este Pincola. I think that's her name. So Dr. Nora Jones Bay brings us the practice, and Frances Wheeler brings us the framing. Dr. Not Dr. Lama Rod Owens brings us the invitation. Yeah. Um, so The Wild Edge of Sorrow, um, the book in which The Five Gates of Grief by Frances Wheeler is introduced, says that for the most part, grief is not a problem to be solved. It's not a condition to be medicated, but it's a deep encounter with the essential experience of being human. Grief ripens us, it pulls us up from the depths of our souls that is most authentic in our beings. He writes, I'm an advocate for grief. I see the many gifts it gives us. While it's difficult to embrace grief, without it, we would not know the heartening quality of compassion, would not experience the full breadth of love, the surprise of joy. We would not celebrate the sheer beauty of the world. So grief work is mourning, and grief work is primary ingredient in the resolution of trauma, says Frances Wheeler, right? And we are living through incredibly traumatic moments that are relentless, right? They continue to persist. They get bigger. They span wider range of who's impacted. Um, the practice of mourning, befriending our grief, creates new patterns and pathways that really honor ourselves wholly and our experience as humans in this world. By engaging in grief work and mourning, we're acknowledging the normalcy, right? The commonality of our human experience. And we're building the capacity to extend self-compassion. Our emotional brain is working overtime in grief, especially when it is working to like discount or suppress it, right? And so it's constantly reasoning and creating intentional space to process, to mourn, to metabolize, is giving some respite to our emotional brain, right? You're working um, in in tandem with it, as opposed to resisting it, which is exhausting. So Francis Wheeler uplifts these five gates of grief. And I just want to acknowledge that these gates of grief he acknowledges are actually gathered from and through his work in Indigenous communities, in non-Western communities around the world, right? That he takes a lot of what he has witnessed in non-Western, non-white communities and synthesize them in these gates. So first one is very very Buddhist, right? Is very connected to the principle of non-attachment, that everything you love, you will lose, right? As I'm reading these, I invite you to soften or open to the grief you're holding in your heart. What do these mean to you? How do they map onto your experiences as a human in this world? Everything that you love, you will lose. Where have you known that, felt that, had to contend with that? There are places inside of you, parts of you that have never known love. Love has not reached a particular crevice, part, or place within you. That we're holding within us the sorrows of the world. I here in Oakland, California, feel for the young people in my community. I feel for people across the country experiencing food instability, experiencing ICE raids, experiencing false criminalization, community violence. Feel for people in Venezuela, for people in Palestine, Sudan, Congo. That we within us are carrying grief for what we expected, what we believed was ours but did not receive, what we know in our gut we had right to but did not receive, the disappointment, the invisibility. And that within us also we're carrying ancestral grief. Right? And with that, we're thinking about the impacts of colonization and genocide. We're thinking about the history of enslavement, being stolen from our land, being forced to separate from our families, thinking about internment, we're thinking about boarding school experience. And with that, he speaks not only about the experience of those atrocities and harms being done to you, but also the grief of being a perpetrator of those harms, the grief of having ancestry and connection through your lineage to people, a people that caused those harms. So these are the 5 gates of grief. What comes up for you as I talk about them, as you read them? Many of us are taught, told, allowed to only experience fully, and maybe not even fully, like grief or loss when it is the big G, which is the death of a person. But what's so beautiful about Frances Wheeler's work is that it allows for nuance and it acknowledges the ways in which loss comes in so many different forms. Not just death, relationships, plans, expectations, identity, finances, sense of normalcy, safety, belonging, dignity, health. How do these map onto your experience? How do they differ? Where do you feel some curiosity? The first gate of grief is the one we're exploring today through a practice, and that's everything we love, we will lose. This gate of grief describes the universal truth of impermanence, right? That all things, from loved ones to personal dreams to the way of life, um, will inevitably at some point or in some way change or be lost. And that actually is the price of love, right? To be willing or open yourself up to experiencing its loss. This gate is really about confronting or acknowledging the um, profound experience of sorrow that comes with um, recognizing everything can be lost. Losing someone or something we love, he speaks to as loss of those who depart this earth before us, parents, spouse, children, friends, pets, loss of home, places that you've loved, a tree, an environment, part of nature that has fed you, that has sustained you. It's being destroyed. Loss from illness or injury, a skill that you might have had or capacity you once had that you no longer have, and the loss of dream, a life dream. So as we're thinking about this, everything you love, you will lose. What about loss is feeling particularly profound to you in this moment? What do you notice about your ability to process, to be present for, to be in relationship with loss right now in this moment? I'm going to continue to kind of explore that question and unpack it and extend it beyond just this moment to our lifetime, which is a lot. So maybe we do it in chunks. Maybe we start now and pick it up later. But again, this practice, descansos, is a practice that was introduced to me by my dear sister and friend, Dr. Nora Jones Bay. And that is from a woman who runs with wolves, Clarissa Pincola Estes. And Clarissa Pincola Estes says that descansos are symbols that mark death. Okay, and again, we're expanding death beyond uh, life, right? To hold more nuance. Right there, right in that spot, someone's journey in life halted unexpectedly. Something happened there that altered that person's life and the lives of other persons forever. A descanso, a marker, a symbol, right? And so our practice, using these guiding questions, right? Where are the places that must be remembered? You think about, and again, Francis Wheeler, is inviting us to think about beyond our lifetime, right? So for generations, where are the places that must be remembered, must be loved and laid to rest? The practice is to, holding that question, make a timeline of your life on a big sheet of paper, and then marking a cross at the places, starting with infancy, but you can also extend it beyond or further back generations or your parents or grandparents, all the way to the present moment where you've lost parts and pieces of yourself or your life. So that's the practice. That's what we're going to engage in for some time. We're going to map our journey, marking where the roads were not taken, paths that were cut off, ambushes, betrayals, and deaths. Right? So this is adding on some nuance. We're honoring the places that should have been mourned or still need to be mourned. And so you'll make two notes if you can. So again, it's going to be crosses symbolizing these losses with this nuance of roads not taken, paths that were cut off, ambushes, betrayals, and deaths. Thinking particularly around parts, places that you have not been able to extend, honor, or mourn. And then if you can create a symbol or note, forgotten for what you sense but hasn't come to the surface yet. And then forgiven for the things that you, for the most part, have released. So that is the practice. I invite you to press pause on the recording right now and give yourself as much time as you can, as you need to engage in this practice. You can use markers, colors, paint, whatever creative tools you have access to, and or it can just be pencil and paper. Noticing your process, noticing what's coming up for you. Press pause. All right, and maybe you press play now. Welcome back. Some opportunity for connection to your experience from some reflection. What did you notice while making your descansos? In laying a thing to rest, what might have you more space for now? And what gesture of love will you now offer yourself in response to your journey? I invite you maybe to journal to those questions. Just allow yourself a moment. What was that like for you? How did it feel to create, to sit with? Vincola Estes invites, be gentle with yourself and make the descansos, the resting places for the aspects of yourself that were on their way to somewhere but never arrived. Descansos marks the death sites, the dark times, but they also are love notes to your suffering. They're transformative. There's a lot to be said for pinning things to the earth so they don't follow us around. There's a lot to be said for laying them to rest. So as we close today's practice, I invite you to think about what within you might want to be given a little more space. What else within you might want a little more rest or to be laid to rest in the coming days. And I thank you for all the ways in which you opened yourself up, softened, made space for today's practice, for any part or piece of today's offering. There are more recordings, more practices to look out for. Next will be the practice of a talking circle, a practice called the wind phone, a practice of heart opening, and a practice to honor our emotional landscape through art. So what is with us presently? Um, if you could allow yourself just a moment before rushing off to the next thing you have to do. I want to invite us back into a closing practice. You could find your feet on the ground, invite some length in your spine, broaden your shoulders to create some width. You feel your entire circumference taking up space, arriving in this moment, bringing your hands together at heart center. Invite you to have your hands together, creating warmth and energy, your own vibration. Pick up the pace. And at the top of a full inhale, you're going to slowly bring either palm to either side of your head and slowly feeling the energy created, the warmth, so gentle embrace, the top of an inhale and exhale. Bring your right hand to your forehead, your left hand to your cranial sacral areas, the nape of your neck. Full inhale, suspending your breath, and exhale. Leave your left hand where it's at. Bring your right hand to heart center, feeling your heartbeat, feeling your warmth, your touch. You're calling all your energy back into yourself. You're feeling into the container that is you, the deep inhale. At bringing your left hand at the bottom of an exhale for another deep inhale, bringing your left hand to your sacrum, right below your chest. Full inhale and a long, slow, deep exhale. Bring your right hand just below your belly button, leaving your left hand where it's at. This is our creative center, maybe our life force. We feel into this energy, can connect to it. Can you grow it? Can you honor it? Give it space. Full deep inhale. And a long, slow, deep exhale out your mouth. Relax, release. Maybe wiggle your fingers. Stomp your feet. And thank yourself. Have a beautiful rest of your day.